After I graduated 2009, it was that time where nurses weren't offered paid jobs, mostly volunteer work, which is kind of sad back then. I was like, oh, there's no money in nursing. They're not paying us. They're looking for volunteers. I didn't pursue nursing after graduation. I landed on a different industry. So I became a flight attendant for Philippine Airlines.
Okay, so at that point, you passed your NCLEX. And do you remember how much you paid for it at the time?
Oh my gosh. I am just blessed that I'm a saver because I had the money to fund my NCLEX. I think it took in peso. I remember it probably 100K. When I saw my paycheck, it all goes to taxes, housing, and it's crazy in California, really, the cost of living there, and taxes too.
How much were you getting paid when you worked in the skilled nursing facility?
They were trying to offer me like 33, 34 back then. And then I complained about it because I was like, it all goes to taxes and housing. How will I able to survive in LA?
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel in our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. Today's guest did something most nurses only dream of. She saved up $30,000, walked away from bedside nursing, and completely changed her life. But it wasn't easy. She started out as a nurse who worked as a flight attendant in the Philippines, moved here to the US, and worked in LA during COVID, making just $35 an hour, working exhausting shifts and barely having time for herself. Instead of inflating her lifestyle, she made a different choice. She saved all of her income, lived below her means, and invested her future while most people around her were spending every dime they earned. Now, she's not just financially stable, she's built a new career that gives her freedom, more time with her daughter, and complete control over how she makes her money. How did she do it? How did she go from burned out nurse to financially free? And what mistakes did she avoid that keeps so many nurses stuck? We're breaking all of this down. If you've ever thought about quitting nursing but didn't know if you could afford it, you have to watch this video. All right, let us know what your name is and what it is that you currently do for a living.
So my name is Monique Rustia. I'm on Instagram, Passive Income with Mon. So I'm a former home health nurse. Now I'm a full-time entrepreneur. So basically, I run a lot of businesses from home. And I'm also a co-founder of Rich Nurses Club. So that's a community that we're building for nurses out there who are dreaming big beyond nursing.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me, where did you grow up?
So I'm originally from the Philippines, Jason. Yeah, I know Monica is from the Philippines as well. I saw their videos, like the usual. We were raised there to become nurses, and that's what led me to nursing. And now that makes me here now in the U.S.
Where in the Philippines did you grow up?
I live in a small town, Bulacan. I don't know if you've been there, if Monica brought you there. So Bulacan is like a province. It's not a city. I grew up like in a subdivision, like a village, something like that. So it's a small town. So I had a fun childhood. That's when I moved here in the US. I was like feeling bad for my daughter because she wasn't able to experience the same childhood as mine.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I do. Two of my brothers are in Australia right now. And I'm actually visiting them this summer. So I'm the only one here in the US.
And are your brothers both nurses or?
No, I'm the only one who was forced. No, not really forced. No, I wasn't really forced. I was the one encouraged by my parents to take. I think if you're a female, you can lean towards more to nursing than male. So I guess that's why it's only me.
And what about your parents? Are they still in the Philippines?
Yeah, they're enjoying their retirement in the Philippines. So they're pretty sad because the three of us, my siblings, left the Philippines. So they're kind of like,
yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so talk to me about your education. You ended up getting your degree over there, correct?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you didn't have any student loans, right? The Philippines. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So after you got your degree, did you end up taking the NCLEX in the Philippines?
Actually, it took me a while before I knew that I can be a nurse in the US. Because when I was in college, nobody was talking about the NCLEX, right? Yeah. So I was clueless. After I graduated 2009, then, it was that time where nurses weren't offered paid jobs, mostly volunteer work, which is kind of sad back then. I was like, oh, there's no money in nursing. They're not paying us. They're looking for volunteers. So I didn't really pursue nursing after graduation. I landed on a different industry. So I became a flight attendant for Philippine Airlines. And yeah, so I've been a flight attendant for 7 years. And then when I fly here in the US, my aunt opened up, why don't you be a nurse here in the state? Actually, I know someone that can help you take your NCLEX. And that's when I realized, how do I do that?
Wow, I can't believe it, because I thought this was common knowledge for most nurses in the Philippines that, it's possible to move to the US and make more money. You worked as a flight attendant for 7 years before you figured out you could move to the US?
Yes, because I took my nursing degree in a public university. So I guess because you know how expensive NCLEX here. If you convert it to peso,
Yeah.
like nobody from my batch probably could afford to take the NCLEX. So it wasn't like an open conversation back then. So yeah, it took me like a while. I don't know. I was like asking my other colleagues here, how did you know that you can actually take NCLEX, right? Because for me, it took me a while. It took me years.
So when your aunt told you this, 7 years after you worked as a flight attendant, and you kind of were convinced at this point that you should move to the US, what steps did you take to end up coming here?
Yeah. So what I did, I consulted someone who knows to process NCLEX for me, because I don't know, because I was busy flying back then. I didn't have the time to research how to process my NCLEX. So I approached, asked for help to process my NCLEX, and they took care of everything. And I just paid them, and yeah, that's it. When I passed the NCLEX, I took it in Makati, Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
I took my exam there, and from there, yeah, that's when I started researching. Okay, how do I now go to the US? Like, which is the path that I should take?
Okay, so at that point, you passed your NCLEX, and do you remember how much you paid for it at the time?
Oh my gosh. I am just blessed that I'm a saver, because I had the money to fund my NCLEX. I think it took in peso. I remember it probably 100K in peso. So that's a lot for us in the
Because,
Philippines.
well, 100. So the peso right now is about 58 pesos, is $1, right? No way. Are you serious? That's 100,000 pesos?
Yeah, because I took the review center. I got myself the U World. I got
Oh, yeah.
myself
That's like $1,700. That's really expensive.
I paid for processing fee, those
Wow.
stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, no, because here in the US, let me see the cost. I'm just gonna hold on, let me just share this while I
Yeah.
do my research, because this is interesting to me. Let's
Yeah.
see. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did.
Cost of NCLEX in the US. Okay, so let's see how much it costs right now. It's about $200, right? But you also did UWorld. Okay, so
Yeah.
UWorld cost.
It's
Okay, so if you get UWorld through the App Store, it's about $4.99 for 90 days, and $5.99. But still, you paid a lot of money.
yeah,
A
I
lot
did.
more. Oh
know.
my gosh. I can't now. And I know how much this is in Filipino terms, because like the average Filipino salary is about what, $400, $300 to $400 a month.
Yeah.
So this is like 6 months of your salary, of like a typical Filipino salary. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, see that. That's why actually I don't know. I wasn't really like, okay, I was just all in. Like,
Yeah.
I want to get it this done. I don't have time to research, so whatever, I wanted to pass my test as soon as possible. So I actually didn't do my research. So for Filipino nurses out there, do your research.
Yeah.
Before getting into these different things.
Oh boy. Okay, so then you ended up doing the U World. You passed your NCLEX, and you said you paid about 100,000 pesos at the time to do all of that. At what point did you start looking into the state that you wanted to move to?
Yeah. So the one who assisted me with the processing, they gave me like a few options back then because you need a social security number to pass that to apply for NCLEX. For back then in 2018, oh my gosh, it feels like forever. New Mexico, New York, and Texas. Back then were the states that we international nurses can apply to without any social.
Okay. Did you apply to all of these states or one specific state?
I just picked one. I chose New Mexico. Yeah.
Okay. And why New Mexico?
For New York, they have additional requirements. I forgot what requirement was that, but there's like another requirement that we have to take as international nurses. And then for Texas, you need to have at least a nursing experience, and I didn't have that now because I was doing a flight attendant job. So New Mexico was the only option that I find the simplest.
Okay, so you took your NCLEX in the state of Mexico. How did that work?
Okay, so there's different testing centers for NCLEX internationally, right? But when you apply for a specific state, it could be those three. So yeah.
Okay, and this was all through the guidance of this person that you made contact with, who told you this was the best state probably for you.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. So was your plan to get licensed in New Mexico and then move to New Mexico and stay there permanently?
Honestly, I didn't care which state back then. All that I was thinking about is how do I get to the US? So I didn't care where I'll be assigned.
What year did you say this was in?
2018. So I was starting reviewing 2017.
Okay. And then you found out you passed your NCLEX around 2018.
Yeah.
What thoughts were going through your head when you found out you passed?
Oh, I was so excited. I was like, I got the ticket to my American dream, right? When you have that NCLEX, like this is my ticket, the golden ticket to the American dream. So once I got my NCLEX, I was really happy, excited, because I knew it was the only way for me to get here.
Okay. So after you passed the NCLEX, what steps did you have to take to get here?
I did the non-traditional way. So I don't know if I can disclose it, but non-traditional way, because the traditional way of getting here is from the Philippines or from your home country. You're gonna get petitioned by an employer, and then you wait until you get interviewed by the embassy before you go. You fly to the US. For me, I did non-traditional. I think because I'm a non-traditional person. I applied for student visa, so I took a master's in business administration in LA. And then while I was there, I was trying to contact different employers who sponsor. And that's why for me, it's a different story compared to the nurses that usually come here.
Okay. Well, actually, this is a pretty interesting way that you came to the US because, like you said, most people will, from the Philippines, get petitioned by an employer after they get interviewed. That's when they end up moving over here. But you said that you ended up getting a student visa. And how does that work? Because in order to get a student visa, you have to be a student here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you already have an acceptance letter before you moved? Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, it was because one of my bucket lists, Jason, is to study here. Yeah, I want to experience the American education system. I was like, wow, it feels to be a student here. That's why when I got the student visa, I was like, yeah, one of my bucket lists is checked. So yeah, very interesting.
So what school did you go to?
So it's a small business school in LA. So they cater for international students in Koreatown.
Awesome. And did you have the money for the tuition, or did you have to get loans?
I didn't get.
Oh, okay.
I here is where frugality really helped me a lot in achieving my dreams. Because if I didn't save when I was a flight attendant, I don't think I can fund my student visa. So that helped.
Okay, so at this point, you ended up getting this. You came to LA. Out of all places, you got your license in New Mexico, but you ended up in LA. So you're here in California. What was the experience like for you? Was it a culture shock for you? Because life here is completely different different than life in the Philippines. So how was that experience?
For me, it was like an adventure.
Mm.
It's like how do I say it? It was challenging, but it was a humbling experience for me. When I moved here, I just brought my suitcases. I didn't have a car. I didn't have family. I asked my relative, my friends, "So can I stay for a couple of months till I find a place to rent?" Something like that. I took the bus, the train. Yeah, it was a fun, experience for me.
And you ended up getting a job out here in LA, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you work?
When I was taking that master's program, my petition was already getting processed, and pandemic hits, and the hospitals, the facilities are like scrambling to look for nurses. Right, the immigration approved my work permit during a pandemic, and that's when I was able to work in California, even though my license is from New Mexico. So yeah, I had that emergency permit to work as a nurse there.
And you were working in a hospital in LA at the time?
I started in a skilled nursing facility. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because we talked about this before we started recording, but I remember you said when you introduced yourself, you said you worked as a home health nurse, right?
Yes.
So you worked in a skilled nursing facility. I speak to a lot of nurses who work in skilled nursing facilities, and they tell me it can be overwhelming at times because of the number of patients you're taking care of. Sometimes you feel like you're alone, you're doing all the work by yourself. So what was that experience like for you, especially during COVID? Because this is where all of the COVID positive elderly patients were staying, many of them were either dying or getting severely ill and having to get transferred to the hospital setting.
Yeah. Imagine my stress, Jason. It was my first nursing job, and I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. And then nurses are sick back then. So there's nobody like really training me.
Yeah.
So when I got into my, that job, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is like a sink or swim. It was so stressful as my first nursing job. No up training.
Okay, they ended up hiring you. And how quickly were you on your own before you started like really just working by yourself?
It took me like a week. Honestly, a week to train me.
Oh my God.
And I remember during that time, because like I had 20 to 30 patients that I need to oversee.
Yeah.
There were no RNs. They're all sick back then. So imagine I'm a new nurse, and then I'm the nursing supervisor, and all I have are LVN.
Oh my God.
I was like, man, I remember that there were shifts that I was like passing out meds, and I was like crying.
Wow.
And then my boss was trying to console me. He said, "I was like, you're gonna get used to the stress. You'll be okay. This is just because you're just new to this. You're gonna get used to this eventually." And then I was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?"
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize COVID was really tough on healthcare workers. And you didn't work as a nurse before COVID here in the US, but honestly, like I speak to a lot of people, a lot of nurses that I've known over the years, and they say they feel like nursing here is just not the same as it used to be. And, as I've been a nurse now for like 11 years, I believe. I graduated in 2012. No, so going on 12 years, almost 13 years.
Okay.
And I remember when I first started, I used to hear this all the time from the seasoned nurses. Oh, nursing is not what it used to be. It's not what it used to be. And part of it is because, they had to transition from like paper charting to now computer charting. So that's kind of like what their experience was like. But for us, it's like the mood of nursing was different before COVID. The mood of the patients and the way they looked at and treated healthcare workers was different before COVID. And that's changed a lot. It almost seems like nurses are just working to make a living, and it's not even for the passion of it anymore. And that's what it used to be like before. Nurses would get into nursing for the passion because they actually really wanted to make a difference. But it feels like now you do all this work and it doesn't make a difference at all. So it's like, why are you even doing it now? That's kind of what it feels like. This is an example. You came into nursing at a time when they really needed you and other nurses, and they just threw you in there, no training whatsoever. And then they expected you to figure it out on your own, right? So that's kind of like what I'm talking about.
In a way, even though, I didn't have that great amazing experience, if those things I didn't experience, probably it wouldn't get me to where I am now. That's what my thinking is. Like, I'm just grateful that I was able to realize things the soonest. Because if not, I'd probably still working as a nurse right now.
So let's get into that then. Okay. So you worked there for how long before you decided to leave?
So I worked in a skilled nursing facility for 6 months in California because I'm an agency nurse. I'm not really paid like an agency nurse. I'm getting paid the minimum wage. Because I was petitioned. I was getting paid the minimum wage. So when I saw my paycheck, it all goes to taxes, housing, and it's crazy in California, really, the cost of living there, and taxes too. I requested my petitioner to reassign me to Washington State. So Washington State is there's no state income tax, and they reassigned me as a home health nurse here in Washington. So I got paid more as a home health nurse, and it was easier than a skilled nursing facility nurse. But the charting is so crazy. Like you really have to sleep late nights because you have to submit all those documentation. So 2 years, they're trying to offer me promotion here to be a clinical manager. Like, oh, you're fit to take the promotion. And I was like, for me back then, I see my clinical managers, they're working late nights too, even though they're already a manager, and they are the ones who are covering for field nurses who are, who call in, calls out. So I was like, I don't want to do that, And once I got out from the agency, I did local travel nursing, so I got paid a lot more. I got myself a duplex, and then after 2 years, I decided, oh, I'm making money from my duplex. Why wouldn't I just figure out more ways I can earn passively so I don't really have to work? So 3 years in nursing, that's why I decided, oh, let me, explore opportunities outside the bedside. So yeah, here I am today.
It's amazing. Okay, now I want to take all of this in and ask you a couple of questions. And first, I should mention, when you worked in the skilled nursing facility, you said that you might have taken care of 20 to 30 patients, right, at a time. And when people think about California, they think about how California has ratios, but those ratios exist in the acute care setting. Okay, so if any of you are planning to move to California and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to work in a skilled nursing facility with only 4 patients, no, that is not going to happen. It's only, the ratios only apply to acute care setting, right? Because I work in the ER and it's a 1-to-4 ratio. But if I have an ICU patient who's critical, it's a 1-to-1. If the patient is a bit more stable, then I can accept another patient. So I may have 1-to-2. Also in my facility, and in many facilities I've worked for, but mine in particular, like if you have a patient who needs to be restrained because a behavioral health issue that's very difficult to control, then that's going to become a 1-to-1 as well, where I work. And that, not a lot of nurses are able to afford that kind of treatment that we get in the facility that I work in. And also, you mentioned about the salary. Now, I wanted to go over some of these numbers. How much were you getting paid when you worked in the skilled nursing facility?
They were trying to offer me like 33, 34 back then. That was 2020. And then I complained about it because I was like, it all goes to taxes and housing. How will I able to survive in LA? So my employer, my petitioner back then offered me, okay, if you want to make more, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Those stipends, probably we can do stipends.
I see.
Or if you want to get relocated, we can offer you relocation. So that's what.
Now, this petitioner, where is the petitioner located?
Oh, they're here in the they have an office here in the US. Yeah.
So
I
this is
disclose it though, Jason.
What's that?
I wouldn't disclose the agent.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. But what I mean is, when I hear you say petitioner, I was under the impression that it was the employer who was petitioning you, the employer at the skilled nursing facility. I didn't know it was an actual agency. Oh, okay. And this agency, you got in contact with them from the Philippines?
When I was here, when I was on my student visa.
Oh.
They're the ones that I reached out.
And how would you go about finding a petitioner?
There's Facebook groups for Filipino nurses. So there are a bunch of like forums. You can see the reviews and all. And that's where I did my research. Like, let me contact all these petitioners and see which has the best offer.
Another question, is a petitioner kind of like just a nursing agency?
It's either a direct employer or an agency, like a staffing agency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they get a cut of your pay, basically, right? So they're going to try to pay you the least amount of money, especially if you're a foreigner, because they know that you might accept the lowest salary possible because you're just coming from another country. And a lot of foreigners are probably thinking, wow, this is a lot of money compared to what I'm making at home.
That's, you know, when I saw that $35 or $33 per hour rate, I was like, oh, that's a lot of money. And then when I saw my paycheck, like, where did it go?
That's pretty sad. And this was in 2020. Oh my gosh. In 2020, because you were working in LA too at the time. So in 2020, my salary, my rate was like $101 an hour. So it's a huge difference. That's like a third of the pay of what I made. But you accepted it because you needed a job, right? Like you needed experience. Like you come here and you have your nursing license. What else are you going to do, right? And so I get it. So you ended up moving to Washington State after that. And you said you were working as a home health nurse. What was your salary like when you moved over there?
Yeah, so I had a increase. So from 33, 35, I was over like 40 per hour. And we had a lot of overtime as home health nurse. So I was like, oh, there's overtime. Oh, not a problem. So yeah, I rather do overtime at home doing my charting than overtime in facility or hospital.
Oh yeah. It's funny because I interviewed a nurse attorney and I asked her about that. I said, before I interviewed her, I went on Instagram and I told my followers if they have any questions for her to let me know before I interview her. And one of them asked, she happened to be a home health nurse, is it legal for my employer to not pay me while I chart at home? And the nurse attorney said that's actually not legal. They're supposed to pay you for any time that you actually have to spend, whether it's with the patient or driving to see the patient or driving back home, and also while you're charting, even if that means you're charting at home. They're supposed to be paying for that. But they get away with it because if you say you're not going to chart while you're at home, that you need to get paid for it if you're going to do so, they'll just find somebody else. That's how they get away with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so was it in 2020 that you ended up moving to Washington State?
Yeah, same year.
Okay. All right. And what did you think of Washington State when you compared it to LA?
Oh, we can start with a paycheck.
Okay.
When I saw my payslip, I am getting more than what I used to in LA. There's no, because in California, there's a lot of deductions. Like you don't understand even where it's going. With Washington, like there's only like few deductions and that's it.
Yeah, because you guys don't pay state income tax in Washington State.
Yeah.
But you ended up buying a house. You said a duplex there, right? How are the property taxes out there?
Oh, it's increasing now.
Yeah.
Because you know how the real estate here in Washington, so it's usually the values of the houses go up here. So yeah, property tax.
And where in Washington did you end up moving to?
So I'm up north of Seattle.
Okay. Wow.
I'm like 30 minutes away from Seattle, Washington.
What about the weather? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's the only thing. The weather. Well, because I'm a laid back person, I really don't go out as much. So for me, the lifestyle here suits me because I am not party goer. I don't like go out. So yeah, for me it also helps me to save fast because there's nowhere to go here other than mountains, parks. Yeah.
Okay. And when you moved there, did you already intend to purchase a property so you can use it as an investment property?
Not actually. I wasn't really like thinking that this is gonna be my forever home here in Washington. I was like during the time that like the pandemic was like ending, the rent prices went up. So when I came here in Washington, the rent was like just around 1.4 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and then it went up after 2 years, I believe. Yeah, 2 years. It went up to 1.7. So that was like a 300 increase. And that time I was thinking, why would I pay $300 more for an apartment? And that time, the interest rate, mortgage rates are starting to climb up. So from 2 to 3%, it was like going to 4. So I was like, okay, better buy a house now than, waiting long before to purchase a house. So yeah, that's why if not for that, Jason, I wouldn't really buy a house.
It's funny that you say that because for us, it's going in the opposite direction right now. We currently own a home. We have a brand new construction, but I've realized over time, if you're buying your primary home and thinking that you're going to use it as an investment, that's the worst way to look at things. Because when we bought this home, before we bought this home, we were paying like $1,800 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment with 2 swimming pools in the complex. We had a tennis court and a couple of other amenities, a gym and all these other things. And then we bought this house. Now we're spending like $4,600 a month. And let me just go over some numbers with you. Hold on. I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
At stage. Okay. So let's go back up here, right? We bought this home for $697,500, right? And right now we owe about $575,000, right? That means that we've basically only paid $122,500 of the mortgage that we owe, right? Okay, now let's look at this other number. All right, can you see this screen?
Yeah.
All right, let's say we pay about $4,600 for our house to live here. This doesn't include all of the maintenance and all the utility bills and everything else that we're paying for, right? You multiply that by 12 months, and we've been here now for 7 years. So multiply that, yeah, actually total 7 years. We paid $386,000 in total payments, but we've only actually gotten the mortgage down by $122,000. So we paid $386,000, but only brought it down by $122,000. And at this point, I'm thinking it's pretty stupid for us to continue buying houses. What we're gonna do, because we plan to move back to New York, is we're gonna rent. Yeah, we're just gonna rent a house instead, or rent an apartment. Because I'm looking at the home prices and the condo prices in New York City, and the cheapest thing you can get would have like for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, would have something like an $8,000 a month payment at bare minimum, maybe like closer to $9,000 a month, right? Yeah. So, but if we were to rent, it would cut our costs in half. So we could use the difference and invest it in the stock market. If we would have invested, let's just look at this difference here. Again, let me just share this screen with you. Okay. So this is how much we paid, right? And the $125,000 is this one right here. But if we paid this much, let's see how much that would go make us if we were to invest it in the stock market. The difference, right? So let's subtract this from the $122,500 that we actually paid down on our mortgage, and it's $263,000. The difference that we could have used and invested in a market. So I'm gonna, and I mean, it would have been over time, right? Like it would have been like, I don't know, like maybe $50,000 every year or something like that, right? But let's just see. I'm gonna go to a compound interest calculator. Okay, yeah, let's just see what that would equal. So let's just say, yeah, fine, let's do initial investment. Let's say like 250,000. Let's go back. 250,000. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do is I'll do 250 divided by 7. Okay, so $35,000 every single year, and we do that for 7 years. That's about $3,000. So let's say $3,000 a month for 7 years. How much would that equal? And our interest rate right now, the total stock market index performed at around, I think, between 11 and 14%. But let's just go in the middle and say like 12%, and leave this like that. Okay, compound is annual. All right, how much would we have? This is a lot of calculations, but look at that. In 7 years, we could have had $440,000.
Yeah.
All this money spent on a house, had like twice as much in the stock market. And that's what, I kick myself every single day when I look at that, because I realize that, owning a home is not for everybody, right? It may be for some people, but it's not for everybody. And you have to run your numbers before you decide to buy a house.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm grateful I didn't get a single family home, my forever home. I got myself a multi-family because I don't see myself paying a lot for housing. Yeah, I'm supposed to pay $3,000 monthly for my mortgage, but since I'm house hacking my duplex, almost half of my mortgage is being paid by someone else. So that's a huge thing for me. I was able to save, and invest by deciding to get a multifamily. So yeah.
And see, I think that's where you went right, as opposed to like where we went wrong and where most people go wrong, is that if we could have done it again, maybe I would have purchased the duplex instead, at the very minimum, either a duplex or a triplex or whatever. That's the way we would have done it instead. But most people I know, they don't do it that way. Most people, they buy a house, including us. You buy a house because it's a dream of yours, right? This is something you've always wanted. And I think about if we would have rented and we would have done all these other things, like invested our money in the stock market instead, the things we could have done with this money would have compounded by now, because we could have used that additional income probably to retire early, right? Or we could have invested that money in other areas. Like the money that we contributed, we could have pulled it out and invested in other areas without having to pay the taxes on those things. But right now, I look at how much I could have made through that, and I'm thinking this is why I started the YouTube channel, because last year we actually made about $7,000 a month from which is not, it's not much relative to what you think YouTubers who are
massive,
right? You would think these YouTubers are making tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. But honestly, I looked into the data and it said that 92% of YouTubers make less than $1,000 a month. So it's not that easy to make money on YouTube. But last year we made $7,000 a month. The year before that was about $3,000 a month. And the year before that was about $1,100 a month. And then the year before that was like $97 a month. So every year it is compounding. Whereas, like if we would have invested in real estate, we would have needed either to be very creative with the financing or try to figure out how to come up with the money up front. So when you bought this duplex, how long did you have to save for the down payment?
How long did I save? From 2020, I saved until 2021.
So only 1 year.
They wanted to get the house 2022. Let's say 2 years.
2 years. Wow, that's amazing.
2 years.
Okay, how much did you have to put down?
Let's just say around 30 grand, 30, 40 grand. I couldn't remember the top of my head, but it didn't cost me more than 50 grand. Yeah.
Wow.
I did a FHA loan, by the way. If
okay.
3.5.
How much was your rate? 3.5?
No, the down payment is 3.5%. And then my rate back then was 4.37, around that.
Got it. And this was, you said, in 2021, 2022?
2022.
Okay.
2022.
All right. Okay. And at what point did you rent it out? How long did it take you to rent it out?
Oh, it was fast because I offered it to travel nurses at first. I was doing like a midterm rental. And then there's a hospital like 10 minutes away from here. And they were like hiring a lot of travel nurses back then. So I was able to. I furnished it. I think in 1-2 months, I got it rented. So
Okay. And was that your plan, to just only rent it out as a midterm rental to travel nurses?
Yeah, I was wanting to do the Airbnb short-term rental, but I heard a lot of stories from my friends who are doing Airbnb. Airbnb takes a lot of fees, so I don't want to do that.
How much were you charging for rent?
So the one I'm renting is it's a fully furnished 1,850.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And is that for a 1-bedroom apartment?
1 bedroom.
That's amazing. Okay, and how much was your mortgage?
So I started with around 3,000.
Okay, and you were living on the other side of the duplex.
Yes.
So basically, it cut your mortgage in like more than half, right?
Yes.
You said your mortgage was 3,000?
Yeah, 3,023.
Wow, exactly. You know the exact number.
Now it went up. Crazy. It went up now. 3,200 this year.
Why did it go up?
Property tax.
Ooh, I see. Oh, wow. Yeah. I always forget about that, because when I do when I pay my mortgage, I only pay the mortgage. I don't pay the property taxes and the homeowner's insurance within the mortgage. It's not included in the mortgage. I asked them to
Oh,
separate it, so I know exactly how much money is being paid into everything.
I see.
Yeah, because sometimes if you put it in escrow, sometimes they may take more than they need to. And I didn't want them to do that. I wanted to be in control of it. Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
But my property taxes haven't really gone up much since we've moved here, which is, I mean, I guess that's the one positive thing about California, right? Like the other taxes are really high. Income tax is really high. But you know what? I think you needed to be more creative with your income taxes here in California because our effective tax rate is closer to, I think, like 16%, 16 to 19% at most of our overall income. Meaning, instead of paying like what most people assume is like the highest income tax in the country of like, let's say 36% to maybe 40% with federal and state income taxes and all of that, we actually only pay about 16 to 19% because of all these deductions we can claim. So we still get to keep a lot of money at the end of the year.
If more nurses will know about the strategies on how to save taxes, they're really gonna be mind blown about how many tax savings that they're gonna get. I don't know.
Honestly, though, I think you're doing the right thing because as a business owner, that's how you save the most amount in taxes. You know, an employee can only save so much. It's when you begin to think like an employer or have a business that you really start to take benefit of the tax code. You know.
Yeah, agree on that. When I saw my tax refunds, I was like, oh man, if I have a lot of write-offs, I could get more back from Uncle Sam. And I was like, oh, I wish more nurses know about this.
So did you end up getting an LLC or were you filing as a sole proprietor or anything like that when you rented out your property?
Sole proprietor.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get the LLC because for me, there's only one unit. So if I plan to like make it like Airbnb, probably I will get an LLC. But since it's not a bigger scale or it's not like so I didn't bother.
So are you still working as a home health nurse?
No, I left bedside or my last job 2023.
Wow.
So
and why did you leave?
There's so many factors, Jason. 2022. When it gets winter time here in Washington, it's snowy, icy. The boss wants you to still keep working, even though you don't know how to drive. On an icy road. And then I started getting emotionally drained because I have a lot of like breakdown with my boss because I didn't have any time to spend with my daughter. I've been doing charting all night, no time for my daughter anymore. And then I started having aches and pains in my body, like my knee was hurting. I was like, when I see my patient, I'm like look like crippled.
You were the patient at this point.
Yes. And then I asked my boss, is there anything that I can do? They say, oh, just take a time off, be back. And I was like, no, that's not gonna help me. That's when I decided, I really need to, get out. Probably, I don't know. Honestly, I was just thinking to take a break. Like probably I just need to take a break. But then life brought me to different places. Yes.
So after you quit your job, you became an agency nurse?
After I quit my last nursing job, I did a lot of ventures in 2023. I did Amazon FBA. What else? I wanted to have my own mobile phlebotomy business back then. Adult family home. I'm really having a lot of ideas in my mind after I left nursing. I was like, I need to make this work. I need to really retire myself soon. So that's when I got into different businesses and landed to where I am now.
Now, okay, let's go over your Amazon FBA and your mobile phlebotomy business and all these things. Why did you start them and why did you stop?
Yeah, when I started the Amazon FBA business, I partnered up with someone. So we're two in that business. And we gave it a shot. Like, oh, let's give it, try if this would work for us. Because, those other Amazon course gurus say, oh, you're going to make a lot here, just sipping pina colada on a beach and you're making a lot. And we tried to see if it's going to work, but Amazon charges a lot of fees. So there's really no profit when you take a look into this. And especially when the buyers send back the items or the products get expired, then they have to send it back to you. And I was, man, we're not making money here. And then that's the time I was like, oh, should I do my own mobile phlebotomy business? But I realized I'm going to be the one marketing myself. I'm going to be the one, going to clients to draw blood. It will take most of my time, being out there. So I was like, oh, scrap. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I was documenting my journey on Instagram. No, I did a digital affiliate marketing as well because they say, oh, you can make money online. Sell this or promote or sell this course. You'll be, traveling the world. And I did that for 9 months. Like, let me make this work. But yeah, didn't work for me until I found the industry that I'm really passionate about and how I can turn in my passion because I really love personal finance because I'm a saver. I'm an investor. So when I learned how I can monetize my passion into finance, that's when my Instagram exploded and grew my business. So now I'm here traveling a lot.
Wow. Okay, so what is it that you do now for go over like a week in your life and describe it to me? What is it that you do?
Oh, so what I do is I train a lot of nurses, not just nurses, I actually coach. I'm like their trainer, the mentor, their coach when it comes to like how with their finances, like how do they actually become more literate when it comes to money. No, and I also teach them like how to become entrepreneurial because not all nurses has an entrepreneurial mindset. So more on coaching calls, I train and also I meet clients as well on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, my schedule are like it's either I attend trainings, to learn more skills, or I meet up with clients, or I meet up with my business partners. So yeah, now I can schedule it based on according on my terms now.
Are there ever times where you wonder or you ask yourself, is this worth it, what I'm doing? I interview a lot of nurses. I myself go, have these thoughts, right? Like we talked about it before we started recording, how I've been doing this YouTube channel thing now for like the last 4 years. And I'm wondering if I should even continue doing it because it's a lot of work. There's times where I'm posting a lot on Instagram because I'm in the mood to do so. And then there's times where I feel like I'm burned out and I don't want to do it anymore. So, and then, there's good months and then there's bad months. There's months where you're making a lot of money. There's months where you're not making so much, right? It's all dependent on how you promote yourself, how much you promote yourself, how well that message resonates with the people you're trying to promote yourself to. And all these things, there's so many elements involved. So do you ever question whether what you're doing is worth it or not?
Yeah. Actually, I knew from the start that this is really what I wanted to do, like become an entrepreneur, have that freedom and get my time back. So I never questioned my decision for leaving bedside because now I get to pick up and drop off my daughter from school. I get to bring her to therapies. I get to travel with her. So if you're gonna ask me if I question myself, if this is the right thing or if this is gonna, no, I found peace now.
That's how you know that nursing has taken a turn, because it's gotten to the point where you've burned yourself out so badly that the best thing that you could have done was leave. And you're not the only one. I know not only have I interviewed like over 50, 60 nurses for this podcast, but I also know a lot of nurses through the YouTube comments, through, the live streams that I've done, through the messages that I get. It's just when nurses leave the profession, they tell me they've never been happier. And that's really, if you think about it, that's a really sad state that we live in today, right? It's unfortunate that our employers don't see that. And it feels like they just treat us as if we're just another pawn. They don't see it. And it's sad. It's really sad because, again, I get so many messages from nurses every single day looking for a way out, looking for an answer. And it's good that you're trying to help other nurses with this because at the end of the day, I think the most powerful thing that a nurse can do for themselves is get their finances in order. Because when you have that, you have control over your life.
Yeah,
right?
That's so true, Jason. There are a lot of nurses who are asking me, what business should I do? I always tell them, you have to learn first how to manage your money. Because if you know how to manage your money, then you know how to manage a business. business, because you may start a business, make a lot of money, but then if you don't know how to save, you don't know how to invest, all those money that you made from your businesses, just gonna, flush down the toilet. So that's why for me, what I do now, I'm so passionate. Like every day, I am excited to meet a lot of nurses out there because I see the need. Now, there are a lot of nurses lacking with financial literacy. They don't have any savings. They don't have any investments. They don't even understand 401k or an IRA. They don't know even how to plan for retirement.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way. If you don't have those things, how would you retire, right?
Yeah.
So,
The first time I got to experience the reality of that is when, and I mentioned this story before, when I worked in New York, I was a brand new nurse. And I remember when we first graduated, Monica and I, my wife, I told her that I wanted to pay off our student loans as quickly as possible. I remember at one point we were paying down $8,000 to $9,000 a month. We were working a lot of hours just to pay down our student loans. And there was one time I approached my coworker because at this point I thought we were finally getting a hold of our student loans. We're almost done with it. Let's start investing in our 401k. So I created the account. I had just started working at this job, created the account, logged in and set everything up. And then I spoke with a coworker of mine who had been there for like, I think 8 to 9 years. And I asked her how much money she had invested in her 401k. And she said to me, "What is a 401k?" And I said, "Wait, hold on a second, but it's automatically set up for us. You didn't know you had a 401k?" She's like, "No, how do I log in?" So I went on the website with her. I said, "Okay, this is what you're going to do. Do you remember our password or anything like that?" She said, "No." I was like, "Okay, you're going to reset your password and you're going to log in today because I need to know. Like, I'm really curious."
yeah.
So she ended up resetting her password, logged in. And when she saw her account, she had like $48,000 in there that was just sitting there. And she had no idea because our employer was contributing a small percentage of our pay towards the 401k automatically. And she had no idea, but she could have increased her contribution and she could have had even more money, right? Because she was there for 8 years. But she was shocked to learn that she had so much money invested in her 401k and she didn't even know about it. And this is the common theme amongst a lot of nurses.
Yeah.
And it just seems so scary, right? Like investing sounds so scary. And that's why most people don't do it.
Yeah. That's true. Because when I came here, when I was new here in the US, there's a lot of options out there. Stocks, you have ETFs, you have all these things, IRA. And I was like, they're making investing complicated.
Yeah.
And then once I, because I love to listen to finance and business podcasts, and when I listen to them, all they say is so simple. No, there's no like complicated investing. You have to really know. You just pick and choose the investments that will work for you, and diversify it, and then you can tell yourself, oh yeah, okay, I don't need to worry because I have a diversified investment. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, so walk me through your process of getting a hold of a client and what it is that you do for this client who has an issue. So like, let's say, for example, I am a nurse and I make a lot of money, but I also have a lot of debt because I spend all my money and I'm not investing any of it. Let's say I'm like $20,000 in debt and most of it is tied to credit cards because I like to shop. I come to you and I ask you for advice. Like, what would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah. So first, I check their entire portfolio, okay? Because I have to assess what the client has. Because if he has a lot of funds sitting elsewhere that we can use to pay off the debts, that could help. Now, pay that debt. Another option is we have this thing called debt consolidation. People don't know about that. So what we do is we refer client to this debt consolidation companies. They help restructure the debt, make the interest lower, and so that the monthly payments are gonna be lower. So instead of them paying a lot, paying off their debts, they can just reinvest now whatever they saved from paying those debts. So yeah, that's a way. I look into their portfolio in a holistic approach. Make sure they know what they're investing into, because some they have a lot: 401k, 403b, IRA. And then when I ask them, do you understand how all these things work? Do you know about the fees, the taxes that you're gonna pay, the market crashes? Are you aware of that? They don't even know. So you're putting all those money and thinking that's gonna be enough when you retire. That's not how this works.
Got it. And then what about accounting purposes? There's a lot of nurses that don't know if they're doing their taxes properly. Do you have any accountants you work with who you can refer nurses to?
Yeah, I hire an accountant because for me, you wouldn't want to miss out on tax write-off, on your tax deductions. Because if you miss that out, oh my gosh, that's a huge thing. You can be getting that money back. So I always suggest, if their portfolio is complicated, I encourage them to hire an expert taxes.
Okay, you said you were paying about $3,200 a month for your mortgage, right? Because your property taxes went up, and you're charging about $1,850 for your rent.
Yeah.
So that means you basically only have to pay about $1,350 out of pocket for the rest of your mortgage.
Yeah.
Right. What other expenses do you have on a monthly basis?
Other expenses other than, let me think. What the businesses, the great thing about the businesses that I have are all low overhead, low cost. Like for running a rental, there's only like whenever I need to have some repairs, that's when I but in a monthly basis, there's none that I can take. No, for my business and what I do, everything is online, so I just need my Zoom, my phone, and I meet with clients, and that's it. So probably my Zoom plan.
When you meet with your clients, you either meet with them online or in person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
But most of these clients are going to be local to you, right? They're not going to be far from you.
Yeah. If they're far, we meet over Zoom. Yes.
How often are you meeting locally versus virtual?
I usually get clients from Instagram. So for me, there's some few people here from Washington that I meet in person, but mostly, everything is on Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's say I have somebody who's interested in reaching out to you. How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Passive Income with Mon. Definitely, you can send me a DM there. And also, we have a community page. So the name of our community is Rich Nurses Club, where we have a school community that they can join for free, and that's where we share different side hustles, retirement, investing strategies. So definitely they can check those pages out, and I would love to connect to our fellow nurses.
If you enjoyed this video, you won't want to miss this video, where a nurse left the bedside to become a radiologist with the potential to earn $1 million a year. Click here to watch it.